Most of us write poetry at some point in our life, but I just never stopped.
You now work in the areas of regulatory work, labor work.
Yeah, professional regulation, labor and employment law, and intellectual property law.
And so how do those sort of fit in with your love for words and writing?
I have always kind of been a writer, a big reader. And when I got to high school at Fort Richmond Collegiate when I was 16, the art teacher was trying to start a slam club. We sort of formed a writing community, which is still something that I feel like I'm pursuing all the time. It was kind of a really formative experience for me. Both professional regulation and labor law are really administrative law, which was probably my favorite class in law school. I like thinking about what people's rights are within the systems that govern their obligations, their work lives. And then my interest in intellectual property law is more connected to my interest in the arts generally. I wanted to serve my communities, and my main community in Manitoba is the arts community, and I wanted to understand more about the questions that people thought I would know the answer to.
You talked about being involved in the community. What are some ways that you sort of stay involved with the U of M community?
Particularly in law school at Robson Hall, I really depended on the generosity of members of the legal profession. The lawyers that I am mentored by now have really modeled for me the importance of part of the responsibility of being a legal professional is giving back to the students. And for me, it's been especially rewarding to be able to connect with students from marginalized communities. And so when students reach out to me and want to talk about how navigating this world might look like for them, I'm always happy to do that.
Could you talk a little bit about how you sort of navigate those two worlds of the sometimes very rigidity of the legal world, but then the creativity and the more poetic world?
The kind of poetry that I really like and value has a lot of structure to it, but then there's creativity in what you do with those structures, which I think is also true of the law, that the law is this giant structure and we have to figure out how to help people and to get people where they need to go within those existing structures.
You are Winnipeg's Poet Laureate for 2023 and 2024. What has been a highlight for you?
The opportunity to meet with so many people in Winnipeg and beyond Winnipeg. Everything from the mayor's inaugural State of the City address to community picnics in North Point Douglas and architects having a slideshow night where you talk about a special interest. And I obviously talked about poetry. It's been a really cool way to learn more about the city that I grew up in and in some ways still getting to know.
Chim, can you tell me a little bit about the process for your book, Scientific Marvel?
Not every writer writes a book. It was something that I knew that I wanted to do. In 2019, I went to the Banff Centre for the Arts in Alberta to do a week-long residency with the poet Kinesia Lubrin. And I came with this kind of pack of poems and all these questions about how to write a poetry book, and her answer was that you just have to write it. There's not really a way around it. 2020 happened. Besides the pandemic, I was also graduating from law school and articling and focusing on that side of my career and interests. In 2021, I thought if I don't take the time out of my life to write this book, I'll never write it. I feel really lucky to get to do so much of what I want to do in my life. And I think that's kind of the motivator for me, is that I feel extremely fortunate to get to practice a lot. I feel extremely fortunate to get to have a career in the arts.
Chim, you are incredibly worthy of this award. You are so hardworking. You have such a strong sense of integrity. You recognize yourself within the community, not just as you yourself. And I think that is very deserving of being recognized.
Thank you.